In a corner of the city, the family of Li Jiang and his wife Zhang Wei appeared perfect and flawless. Li Jiang was a young, successful lawyer, gentle and refined, with a promising career ahead of him. Zhang Wei, a homemaker, was gentle and caring, excelling in managing the household. Their life seemed filled with harmony and happiness. They had been married for 6 years, leading a peaceful and fulfilling life. Without children, they had more time to enjoy each other's company. On weekends, they often went out together or invited Zhang Wei's mother, Li Jiang's mother-in-law, Mrs. Wang, over for family meals. From the outside, this family seemed to be the epitome of a happy home. No quarrels, no turbulence, everything running smoothly. However, who would know that beneath this tranquility, there were unspoken cracks? The relationship between Zhang Wei and Mrs. Wang had always been somewhat strained. Although they appeared to get along on the surface, there was a deep-seated coldness and tension between them, a subtle conflict that had been quietly simmering for years. As for Li Jiang and Zhang Wei, while their daily life appeared calm, the growing emotional distance and indifference toward each other were becoming more pronounced with time. In this seemingly ordinary life, these cracks slowly widened, setting the stage for the impending storm. What would eventually cause all of this to unravel? Was it the fading love, or was it the hidden desires lurking in the shadows? All of this was perhaps buried in the unnoticed details of their lives. If you want to find out what happens next, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and stay tuned for this spine-chilling story. Li Jiang and Zhang Wei's meeting was nothing extraordinary. It happened at a mutual friend's wedding. At that time, Li Jiang had just graduated from law school and was full of ambition, while Zhang Wei was a young girl just starting her career, innocent and introverted. At first, they only had brief conversations and established a preliminary friendship. Soon after, Li Jiang took the initiative to invite Zhang Wei to join him at more social events. As time went on, their relationship began to warm, and the mutual dependency and attraction between them grew stronger. Zhang Wei's gentleness and Li Jiang's intelligence made them seem like a perfect match, and gradually they went from being ordinary friends to lovers, eventually marrying each other. Their married life, though ordinary, was filled with sweetness. But things began to change subtly after Li Jiang's mother-in-law, Wang Ayi, moved in with them. Wang Ayi was a complicated woman, outwardly gentle and loving, yet inwardly filled with deep loneliness and dissatisfaction. She and Zhang Wei had never been close, and there was an invisible gap between them. Li Jiang, on the other hand, became her only source of comfort and dependence. At first, Wang Ayi only occasionally visited Li Jiang and Zhang Wei's home, typically during the holidays to check in on her daughter and chat about everyday matters. However, as Wang Ayi began visiting more frequently, Li Jiang's interactions with her also increased. At that time, Li Jiang had no idea that these seemingly innocent encounters would lead to a dramatic change in his life. One evening, when Zhang Wei was out attending a family gathering, Li Jiang was left alone at home with Wang Ayi. After dinner, they sat together in the living room, chatting. The conversation started with mundane topics, but gradually shifted to more personal matters, such as their feelings and life philosophies. Wang Ayi shared some of her own love stories from her younger years, and Li Jiang, in a relaxed mood, began to open up as well. That night, the atmosphere was unusually intimate, and Wang Ayi's gaze became softer and more intense. Li Jiang felt an indescribable attraction. Over the following months, Li Jiang and Wang Ayi's relationship began to evolve in more covert ways. They would exchange glances in private, and on days when Zhang Wei was away, Li Jiang would find excuses to spend time alone with Wang Ayi. They would walk down quiet streets, share their feelings of loneliness and secrets. Their relationship slowly crossed the line from familial closeness to something much more forbidden. The relationship was becoming increasingly dangerous. Every encounter left Li Jiang struggling with the gnawing feeling of guilt. He knew this was a forbidden love, yet he could not resist the growing desire. Wang Ai's tenderness and affection ignited a longing deep within him, and each secret meeting only fueled his internal conflict between passion and guilt. Li Jiang and Wang Ai's relationship over time gradually shifted from a secret emotional entanglement to something bolder. Each time they were together, their hearts raced, and an unspoken understanding passed between them. Wang Ai's calmness and deliberation gradually cooled Li Jiang's impulsiveness and passion, replacing them with a calculated and cold demeanor. The two of them began discussing how to deal with Jiang Wei, eliminating this obstacle and allowing their relationship to be openly expressed. With Wang Ai's encouragement, their plan transitioned from a vague fantasy into a concrete and actionable murder scheme. They knew well that simply divorcing or separating wouldn't be enough to hide the ambiguous nature of their relationship. Jiang Wei's presence was an obstacle they couldn't rid themselves of. Therefore, Li Jiang and Wang Ai decided that the only solution was her complete disappearance. All their focus was directed toward how to stage a convincing home invasion and robbery, making Jiang Wei's death look like an unfortunate accident. Li Jiang had picked out a specific night for their plan, intending to strike when Jiang Wei was in a deep sleep. That evening, Li Jiang's work was especially busy, but he had deliberately arranged things to ensure that Jiang Wei wouldn't notice anything unusual. As night fell, Li Jiang behaved as he usually did, without any signs of change. After dinner, he and his wife exchanged typical conversation, and Jiang Wei had no idea that something was terribly wrong. When Jiang Wei went to bed, Li Jiang and Wang Ai had already made their preparations. At midnight, Li Jiang and Wang Ai quietly approached the bedroom door. Li Jiang's heartbeat raced uncontrollably, a slight sinister smile forming on his face. Wang Ai gently squeezed Li Jiang's hand and whispered, "Everything is ready." At that moment, Jiang Wei had already fallen into a deep sleep, her body lying still in bed, unaware of what was about to happen. Li Jiang took a deep breath, carefully pushed the bedroom door open, and, along with Wang Ai, entered the room. The air was thick with a heavy silence, the stillness overwhelming. The faint glow of the nightlight illuminated the room. Li Jiang and Wang Ai stood beside the bed, barely daring to make a sound. Li Jiang gripped the rope tightly, walking slowly toward Jiang Wei's bedside, his expression one of both resolve and a slight unease. At this moment, all fear and hesitation seemed overshadowed by desire and cold logic. Li Jiang quietly wrapped the rope around Jiang Wei's neck, and Wang Ai quickly pressed down on her shoulders, ensuring she wouldn't wake up. Jiang Wei suddenly struggled, her eyes snapping open in horror, but her efforts were futile. Within a few moments, she stopped struggling, her body going limp. That instant of terror and helplessness would haunt Li Jiang forever. Her eyes had widened in shock, her mouth gasping for breath. But these cries were quickly silenced. Minutes later, Jiang Wei's struggles ceased completely, her body relaxing, as if all her life force had been drained. Li Jiang released the rope, looking down at his wife's lifeless body with a strange sense of emptiness. He exchanged a silent glance with Wang Ai, and there were no words needed between them. They both knew that the operation was not over, and every step now was crucial to their future. With Jiang Wei's death confirmed, the next stage of the plan began, staging the crime scene. Wang Ai rummaged through the nightstand and pulled out Jiang Wei's handbag, scattering its contents, cosmetics, personal items, across the floor to create the illusion of a violent struggle. Li Jiang overturned some furniture, drew the curtains, and intentionally made the room appear as though it had been ransacked. He then picked up a small knife and cut his own hand, leaving a few drops of blood to suggest that he had fought off an intruder. Wang Ai, following his instructions, also inflicted a few superficial cuts on her arm to add further authenticity to their fabricated story. Once everything was set, Li Jiang took a deep breath and dialed the emergency number. His voice trembled with anxiety and fear. "Police, my house was robbed, and my wife, she's been killed." The voice on the other end of the line was calm and methodical, asking a series of questions, and Li Jiang carefully recited the story he had rehearsed. He knew that the murder needed to be flawless and precise. Otherwise, their carefully constructed plan would unravel. The next morning, the police quickly arrived at the crime scene. Zhang Wei's death shook the entire neighborhood, especially with the accounts from Li Jiang and Wang Ai, which initially seemed to suggest a case of home invasion and robbery. However, experienced Detective Li began to notice several details at the scene that didn't quite match the story described by Li Jiang and Wang Ai. First, while the room appeared to be in disarray, there were no signs that the intruder had conducted an extensive search inside. The windows and doors were not forcibly broken, nor were there obvious signs of theft. In fact, some of the furniture appeared to have been deliberately displaced, even exhibiting traces of being arranged by someone. Detective Li then walked over to Zhang Wei's body and observed that her eyes were slightly open, her face displaying an almost peaceful expression. This struck him as odd. If this had been a robbery, the victim would surely have shown more fear. Furthermore, the bedside cabinet contained several valuable items, none of which had been taken. Why hadn't the supposed intruder stolen these obvious riches? Li's instinct told him that something hidden was at play here. He started his investigation with the neighbors and family. The neighbors all mentioned that the relationship between Li Jiang and Wang Ai had always been somewhat unusual. While Li Jiang had always appeared gentle and caring toward his wife Zhang Wei, his interactions with Wang Ai were often marked by an odd intimacy. Multiple neighbors had seen them together in places where only married couples or those with close relationships would typically go, and the looks they exchanged seemed filled with unspoken meanings. The police investigation revealed that Li Jiang's and Wang Ai's relationship was far from simple. Zhang Wei's death did not appear to have any obvious motives. She had no known enemies and was well liked in the community. Her home life on the surface seemed to be without major conflicts. So what could be the real motive for her murder? As more evidence was collected, more discrepancies began to surface. Li Jiang and Wang Ai's whereabouts on the night of the murder were unclear, and their timelines didn't match up completely. Both had given inconsistent testimonies. Wang Ai, in particular, seemed oddly calm when recounting the events, an emotion that didn't match the panic one might expect from someone who had just witnessed such a brutal crime. Li Jiang, on the other hand, seemed unusually anxious and unsettled, but his reaction didn't quite align with the story he had told. This inconsistency only fueled the police's suspicions. Meanwhile, the police also accessed Li Jiang and Wang Ai's communications records. In their phones, they discovered several strange text messages and phone calls between the two, which hinted at something more than a simple family bond. Some of the messages even referred to, "If Wei Wei were gone, we could be free," suggesting that there was something far more sinister behind Zhang Wei's death. These text exchanges were like a hidden thread, revealing the true nature of the relationship between the two. When Li Jiang and Wang Ai were separately led into the interrogation rooms, the police's strategy had already quietly begun. The two were questioned separately, with no possible means of contact between them. However, the police had already prepared a series of psychological tactics to break down their defenses. Officer Li sat across from Li Jiang, his face expressionless as he began the first round of questioning. Li Jiang's eyes still showed a hint of panic, even though he was trying to stay calm. However, every question posed by Officer Li seemed to strike at his core, placing enormous pressure on him. Every time Officer Li asked about the details of the incident, Li Jiang's responses became increasingly vague, his eyes starting to flicker nervously, and his lips trembled uncontrollably, as if resisting the fear inside. At the same time, Wang Ai was brought to another interrogation room. She appeared more composed, even somewhat indifferent, but there was still a slight tension in her demeanor. The police already had the details of her relationship with Li Jiang, as well as a series of suspicious behaviors before and after the incident. The interrogators intentionally brought up seemingly irrelevant details, asking her to recall certain moments in the past, slowly wearing down her patience and psychological defenses. Gradually, Li Jiang began to show signs of cracking. His story started to change multiple times, particularly when he spoke about how Jiang Wei had discovered their abnormal relationship. His answers grew more nervous, his speech quickened, and his eyes became evasive. He seemed to be trying to suppress the anxiety bubbling inside him. Finally, during one long, quiet pause, Li Jiang's voice dropped, and he suddenly broke the silence. "I don't want to lie anymore. I killed Jiang Wei, and Wang Ai was involved too." This sentence exploded like a bombshell, instantly shattering his last defense. Li Jiang's eyes were filled with helplessness, and he realized he had no way out. Meanwhile, in the other room, Wang Ai also started to crack under the police's persistent questioning. At first, she tried to deny her relationship with Li Jiang, but as the police continued to reveal their communications and witness testimonies, Wang Ai began to unravel. Her lips trembled, her eyes clouded, and eventually she quietly admitted, I helped him. We both thought that with her gone, we could be together." Wang Ai's words completely unraveled the ugly truth behind the crime. Her confession, along with Li Jiang's, exposed their collaboration in the murder. With their confessions, the truth of the crime was finally laid bare. As the case entered the trial phase, the courtroom was filled with tension and anticipation. Li Jiang and Wang Ai sat in the defendant's seat, facing not only legal judgment, but also society's moral condemnation. Their eyes were vacant, as if unable to face the outside world. The secrets they had once kept hidden were now fully exposed, and their actions shocked and enraged everyone. In court, the prosecutor presented the evidence of Li Jiang and Wang Ai's crimes, detailing how they had carefully planned and brutally executed the murder, as well as how they had meticulously staged the crime scene afterward. Every piece of evidence, every witness's testimony, seemed to reveal their evil intentions. Each moment of the trial brought a heavy sense of oppression to the courtroom. People in the audience would occasionally whisper to one another or silently shed tears, seemingly grieving the unjust death of Jiang Wei. Public anger spread rapidly after the case was exposed. Social media, news reports, and even street corners were filled with discussions of this once trusted family's horrific downfall. Many could not understand how this seemingly ordinary pair of relatives could commit such a heinous act driven by desire. Jiang Wei's family, especially her biological parents, were devastated. They could not bear the loss of their daughter, nor could they accept that their own relatives had betrayed her so cruelly. The trial ultimately concluded with a sentence. Li Jiang and Wang Ai were sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. In the judgment, the judge clearly stated that this was not just a murder case, but the tragic outcome of a forbidden love. Their actions had trampled on basic family morals and social ethics. The outcome of the case brought endless pain and regret to all those involved. Li Jiang and Wang Ai's actions not only destroyed their own lives, but also deeply hurt Jiang Wei's family, especially her parents. The once warm and harmonious family was now beyond repair. Jiang Wei's death became the final blow that shattered the family, and her parents would forever be tormented by grief that could never heal. The ripple effect of this tragedy was also felt by everyone in the community. From once being a close-knit neighborhood, it had now turned into one of sorrow and indifference. People began reflecting on their own relationships with others, as well as the complexity and fragility of human nature. What once seemed to be a simple family dynamic concealed countless hidden fractures and untold pain. Everyone started to question their own actions and inner motivations, asking themselves whether they sometimes relied too much on appearances, overlooking the deeper truths. For Li Jiang and Wang Ai, their future would forever be overshadowed by this crime. Whether it be the years spent in prison or the constant judgment and scorn from the outside world, nothing could erase the gravity of their actions. At the end of this story, only regret and a deep sense of emptiness remained. This tragedy serves not only as a warning about personal morality, but also as a profound reflection on familial relationships. It makes us ponder whether the bonds of family are truly as strong as they seem. Will human desires and impulses in a fleeting moment destroy everything? Everyone should always stay vigilant in their lives, cherishing the trust and love shared with their family, rather than allowing it to quietly collapse without notice.